ఇంకేం మీ రూమ్ లో పెట్టేస్తున్నారు నేను పెట్టుకోలేదు చూస్తున్నారా ఏం ఎలా చూస్తున్నాను చూస్తున్నారా
Good morning, everyone. It's already late, but see, the topic is just to all of you identify this picture. Here, this is a section taken of the neck, means the neck section at the level of the isthmus of the thyroid gland. Just to observe the picture, here you can see some fascia is surrounding the structures and dividing the neck into compartments. So, what is the purpose? Why the fascia is dividing this neck into compartments? Actually, you see, there is no any bony case to support or protect the structures which are present in the neck, because all the important structures are present here, but there is no any bony case or bony rib case, so to surround this all these structures. So for this, what happened? The fascia itself is modified and it is forming a important facial compartments. And before going to that, you have to know what are the structures actually we see before going to the dissection. First, you have to see the skin, and immediately beneath that we can see the fascia. So what is that fascia? Superficial fascia. As you know, beneath the skin, there must be a fascia which is carrying all the blood vessels and nerves which are supplying the skin. So it should be, the superficial fascia should be a loose areolar tissue. So because of this reason, what is that structure? Superficial fascia is a loose areolar tissue. So this tissue is giving a little resistance to any infections. So for this purpose, what happened? To main importance, as you know, any connective tissue, it is giving support and protect to the structures. If it is covering the muscles, it gives protection and support, vessels and viscera. But here, what is the other important function of this fascia and why it is forming the facial compartments? As the superficial fascia is giving little resistance to the spread of infections. So there must be a resistant layer, means to prevent these infections which are spreading into the deeper aspect of the neck. So for this, this is a main important function of the deep fascia, so that what happened? It is modified, and in what way it is modified? By forming a facial compartments. So around the neurovascular bundles, see here we can see a blue color facial envelope. So what is this? Carotid sheath. This is an important structure present in the neck to envelope the neurovascular bundle of the neck. And similarly here, the red color you can see. This is a layer which is enclosing the muscles, and moreover green color layer. So what is this? Muscles which are surrounded by this fascia. So here this deep fascia is very important. First it gives support, then protection. So what type of protection it is? It is preventing the spreading of the infection from the superficial fascia into the deeper aspect of the neck. Okay. Now, so this is the topic actually. So what is that fascia around the neck and how it is modified and how it is compartmentalized the entire neck. So for which you have to know what is the introduction, means the neck. I want to tell what is the extent, then boundaries, then various fascia. So what are the fascia are present in the neck? Superficial fascia and the deep fascia. Here the deep fascia you have to know in detail. So what is that? As I told, this is a fascia which is preventing the infections. So in a way, what happened? It is modified. So it's not a single layer. It is divided into various layers. What are those layers? We'll discuss later. Then spaces around the neck. So by this facial envelope, the spaces are appeared among these facial envelopes. So what are those spaces? We'll see, and applied anatomy regarding these spaces. Now coming to the skin. As I told, see this picture. So for the dissection of the neck, what is the structure? We have to reflect first skin. So immediately after reflection of the skin, you can appreciate a subcutaneous muscle. And see, this is a subcutaneous muscle, but it is a striated muscle. And in the parotid gland, as I explained, the facial nerve gives off a cervical branch extends down to the neck. So what is that cervical branch? Here it is supplying this platysma muscle. So this platysma muscle present immediately. Once you remove the skin, we can appreciate. What happened? Sorry for the inconvenience. One minute.
ఇదేది
New share.
ఇది
Share.
ఇది లేని షేరేనా తను రమ్మన్నా క్లిక్ చేయి ఇక్కడ డబుల్ క్లిక్ చేయి ఏమన్నా ఇది చిన్న కలగా వెళ్ళిపోయింది
Sorry for the inconvenience. Please wait for 1 minute. Okay. So let us see what are the structures. So after removing the skin, immediately you can appreciate the superficial fascia. So between this means within the superficial fascia, you can appreciate an important subcutaneous muscle in the neck region. So as it takes origin from the fascia over the two muscles here, the deltoid muscle and pectoralis major, as it takes origin from this thoracic area and ascends upwards and crossing the neck. So by crossing, what happened? It forms the roof for the anti-triangles of the neck. So as it ascends towards the neck, what happened? It forms the roof of the neck. Then
ఈ ఐకాన్ క్లిక్ చేస్తే మీకు స్లైడ్ షో స్లైడ్ షో ఉంటుంది ఈ ఐకాన్ క్లిక్ చేయండి
thank you, sir. So this superficial fascia lies between the dermis and the deep cervical fascia. It contains numerous structure. Here you identify these nerves are piercing the platysma muscle, and whatever cutaneous nerves and blood vessels, they should pierce this platysma to supply the skin. So this is a subcutaneous muscle present in the superficial fascia. Then you see here, you can clearly observe what is the origin. So this platysma takes origin from this fascia over the deltoid and pectoralis major, and all the fibers ascends obliquely on the neck, where it forms the roof of the triangle of the neck. Then above it is reaching the lower border of the mandible, and from here further it ascends towards the angle of the mouth as a risorius muscle. So this is the extent of the platysma muscle, and it is supplied by the cervical branch of the facial nerve. Now coming to the deep cervical fascia. So after removing this superficial fascia, means what are the structures? Cutaneous nerves, vessels, and moreover the important muscle, subcutaneous muscle. After reflecting all these structures, you can appreciate the deep fascia. Here you see, this is a deep fascia. So this deep fascia, just after seeing all these structures, we can appreciate this. So this deep fascia, it is divided. And before I told what is the function of this deep cervical fascia. So anywhere in the body, not only in the neck, anywhere in the body, what is the function of this deep cervical fascia? And I told the function mainly prevent the infections. So how it prevents? The superficial fascia is histologically, what is that structure? Superficial fascia is loose areolar tissue. But the deep fascia is not a loose tissue, loose connective tissue. It is a dense connective tissue. So moreover, in this dense connective tissue, the abundant fiber is a collagen fiber, not elastic. So extensibility also less and densely arranged collagen fibers. So by this architecture, the deep fascia is preventing the infections from the superficial to deeper structures of the neck. Then coming to the details of this deep cervical fascia. Here, the deep fascia is divided into 3 layers. Outer or superficial is investing layer. The middle layer is pretracheal layer. The deep layer is prevertebral layer. So these names are given according to the origin and where it is going, where it is investing or where it is passing in front. Like that, we are dividing this deep cervical fascia into these 3 layers. So outermost is the investing layer, middle is the pretracheal and deep is the prevertebral. So here you can see this is outermost, this is investing layer, then pretracheal layer, then most deeper is the prevertebral layer. Now we'll discuss the investing layer. So why it is known as investing layer? So it is investing, means it is enclosing or forming a slings. So it is covering these structures. So that's why what happened, it is known as investing layer. If you see the extent of the investing layer, first you see this is a midline of the neck, this is the anterior extremity, then posterior line. What is that? Posterior midline extends from the external occipital protuberance to the spine of the 7th cervical vertebra. So from the external occipital protuberance to the spine of 7th cervical vertebra means exactly in the mid-sagittal plane. That is a ligament. What is that ligament? Ligamentum nuchae. So from the ligamentum nuchae to the anterior medial line, middle line means anterior sagittal line. What is the extent of this superficial or investing layer of the deep cervical fascia? First you see superiorly what happened. Superiorly if you see, it is attached to the base of the mandible. Means from symphysis mentae, it is a midpoint of the lower border of mandible and to the angle of the mandible. So it extends from the symphysis mentae to the base angle of the mandible. Then here on approaching further, what happened? There is a parotid gland. So here what happened? This investing layer is splitted and it is enclosing this parotid gland. So where it forms the parotid fascia. Then still behind that, see it is attached to the mastoid process. Further it is going to the mastoid bone and further back to the superior nuchal line and finally to the posteriorly present external occipital protuberance. So what is the upper attachment of this investing layer? Base of the mandible, then mastoid process, then superior nuchal line and external occipital protuberance. And along the posterior sagittal line, ligamentum nuchae. Then from the cervical spine, means the spine of the 7th cervical vertebra, if you trace front, means forwards, it is extending on to the scapula, spine and acromion process. Then from the acromion, it extends on to the clavicle. So this is the upper surface of the clavicle. Then it reaches the midline. So where it is, there is a suprasternal space, notch. So this is the lower attachment and upper attachment of the investing deep cervical fascia. So on its course, what happened? To sum up, what is this superficial layer or otherwise called investing layer? So name indicates investing, means it is investing what? First you see encloses 2 muscles and it forms the roof of the 2 triangles and encloses the 2 glands and encloses 2 spaces, then thicken twice in the form of 2 ligaments, then forms 2 fascial slings for the muscles and give rise to 2 fascial processes. So what are these structures? We'll see one by one. See here, if you identify the section of the neck, how this investing layer means most superficial layer of the deep cervical fascia extending and investing muscles. So it is how it is inverted. I told the 2 muscles are invested by this investing layer. See from the midline, if you trace further backwards, see it extends towards the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. So from the midline to the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, here it forms the roof of the anterior triangle. And at the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, it is splitting, where it is enclosing the sternocleidomastoid. So investing this muscle. So at the anterior border, it splits and enclosing the muscle. Then again at the posterior border, the two layers are fused to form a single layer, and it extends onto the posterior triangle, then reaching the anterior border of the trapezius, where again it is splitting to enclose this trapezius muscle. So at the posterior border of trapezius, these two layers again fuse to form single layer, and that blends with the ligamentum nuchae. It is present in the midline. So, and if you trace further, it is continuous with the same layer of the opposite side. So this is the investing layer where it is enclosing two muscles. So you can clearly observe by taking this transverse section. So this here it is enclosing sternocleidomastoid muscle and trapezius. Then if you trace this investing layer vertically, means here you see here on its course, the investing layer, as it reaches the lower border of the mandible, so on its course there is a gland present immediately beneath the mandible. So that is a submandibular gland. Here the lower picture you can appreciate how it is investing the gland. See, this is the submandibular gland. Here it presents this inferior surface. Here this inferior surface, and this is medial surface. So on reaching this inferior border of the submandibular gland, it is split into two layers. So the superficial layer is covering the inferior surface of the submandibular gland and gets attached to the lower border of the mandible. Then the other layer, deep layer, it is covering this medial surface of the gland and extends further upwards to the mylohyoid line. On the inner surface of the mandible, you can see a line which is known as mylohyoid line. So this deep layer is extending on to the mylohyoid line. So here it is enclosing or investing this gland. Then on the lower, just below at the angle of the mandible, 2 centimeters below and behind the angle of mandible, this investing layer again splits to enclose the one more salivary gland, that is the parotid gland. So at the apex of the parotid, the investing layer is divided into two layers, superficial and deep. So this superficial fascia, as it crosses the parotid gland, here it forms the parotid fascia, and this fascia extends further forwards onto the muscle. Here you can identify a masseter muscle. So from the parotid to the masseter, so what is that fascia called? Parotidomasseteric fascia. And that parotidomasseteric fascia is thickened and it fuses with the epimysium of the masseter muscle. And further it is attached to the upper. It gets attached to the bone, that is the zygomatic arch, lower border of the zygomatic arch. So this is a superficial layer. Whereas deep layer, here in this picture you can see the deep layer extends onto the medial surface, then gets attached to the external acoustic meatus and further back to the lower border of the tympanic plate. And styloid process. So here the deep lamina is somewhat thin compared with the superficial lamina. And from the styloid process to the angle of mandible, the part of this deep lamina is thickened, where it forms the stylomandibular ligament. So what is the stylomandibular ligament? It is just a thickening of the deep lamina of the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, extending from tip of the styloid process to the angle of the mandible. So here that stylomandibular ligament separates the parotid gland from that of submandibular gland. So in vertical disposition, we can see how this investing layer is forming a facial envelope for the two important glands. These are the two major salivary glands. Next, on its course, it forms a two facial slings. Here you identify, this is a symphysis mentae and this is lower border of the mandible. So here it gives origin to the a muscle. What is that? Anterior belly of digastric. So this anterior belly of digastric is connected to the B, here B indicating posterior belly of digastric. So two bellies are interconnected by means of a tendon. And the function of this digastric muscle is elevation of the hyoid bone. So for this elevation, what happened? This common tendinous, common tendon means anterior belly of digastric and posterior belly of digastric. They are interconnected by means of a tendon. That tendon is anchored to the hyoid bone by means of a fascial sling. And then what is a fascial sling is derived from the thickening of the investing cervical fascia. So by this what happened? It is elevating the hyoid bone during deglutition. So this is the function of this fascial sling, and this fascial sling is one of the modification of investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. And one more fascial sling is there, that is common tendon again. The two bellies which are connected. And what is the muscle is omohyoid. Here the omohyoid presents the two bellies, inferior omohyoid, superior belly of omohyoid. So the two bellies are connected by intermediate tendon, and this tendon is anchored to the clavicle by means of a fascial sling. So what is this sling? It is again a modification or a thickening of the investing deep cervical fascia. So if you trace this investing sling further, means it is extending to the clavicle. From the clavicle, if you trace this fascia further behind the clavicle, extends to form and into the thorax, where it forms the clavipectoral fascia. Already you have seen the clavipectoral fascia in the thorax. So the clavipectoral fascia, it forms the, here you can see. See, this is the layer which extends down. This is the clavicle. So behind the clavicle, it extends further down and enclosing the muscle, that is subclavius muscle. So from the subclavius muscle, it forms a clavipectoral fascia where it is enclosing the pectoralis minor, as you know. So this is one of the, means some of the authors are telling what is this clavipectoral fascia? It is an extension of the fascial sling of omohyoid. And this fascial sling for the omohyoid is actually thickening of the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. So this is important, you have to know. It forms the two fascial slings for omohyoid and digastric muscles. Then the investing layer is encloses two spaces. If you see the horizontal extension of this deep fascia, exactly just above the manubrium, you can see a notch, that is suprasternal notch. The manubrium of the sternum presents a notch which is known as suprasternal notch. So at this suprasternal notch, the investing layer is splitted and forming a enclosure for this space. So which is known as suprasternal space, otherwise called space of Burn. So what is this space of Burn? It is because of the facial splitting of the investing layer just above the manubrium sterni. And important structures are present here, and this space, how it is important for us. See, the interclavicular ligament means the two clavicles are connected by means of a ligament, interclavicular ligament. Then in this space, one important muscle is that, what is that? The sternal fibers of the sternocleidomastoid. Means sternocleidomastoid takes origin by two heads. One is from the sternum and one is from the clavicle. So here we can see the sternal head of the sternocleidomastoid is one of the important content of this suprasternal space. Then jugular venous arch. It is very, very important. So what is this jugular venous arch? Here you can see at the base of the mandible, two important veins are begin, which are known as anterior jugular veins. And they are crossing the anterior triangle of the neck. Here, these two anterior jugular veins, means right and left anterior jugular veins, are interconnected by means of a transverse vein, which is known as jugular arch. So this is one of the important content. And in this space, this is a potential space where it is a loose areolar tissue is present. So important structures, and sometimes one important lymph node also present. So this is suprasternal space, otherwise called space of Burn. Then further backwards, if you trace exactly above the middle third of the clavicle, again this investing layer is splitting and enclosing a space which is known as supraclavicular space. As it is above the clavicle, so supraclavicular space. And what is the location actually? The middle third of the clavicle. So what is the purpose of this space? Why it is there here? Why the fascia is splitting here? So important content is the external jugular vein. So during venous return, what happens? It allows the expansion of this external jugular vein. So this is very, very important content in this supraclavicular space. So these are the two spaces which are enclosed by the splitting of the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. Here you see, this is the clavicle. So above it is splitted like this, and in between we can important structures. See, one more structure also there, supraclavicular now. So in this middle third, the intermediate supraclavicular now, because supraclavicular now divides into 3 branches. So medial, intermediate, lateral. So out of 3, the intermediate cutaneous branch and this external jugular vein, these are present in this supraclavicular space. Then after that, investing layer. So what is investing layer? To sum up, investing layer means you have to know how, why the name is given investing, because it is enclosing. So enclosing 2 muscles forms the roof of the 2 triangles. Here one thing I have not explained. Here see, this is the investing layer as it crossing from the anterior midline to the anterior border. This is the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. So in between what happened? It forms the roof of the anterior triangle. Then behind the sternocleidomastoid, the investing layer extends on to the trapezius. So in between these 2 muscles, the part of fascia is forming roof of the posterior triangle. So here it forms the roof of the 2 triangles. Then enclosing 2 glands, which are submandibular gland and parotid gland. And enclosing 2 spaces. What are these 2 spaces? Suprasternal space and supraclavicular space. Then thickened twice. So thickened twice means as it is ascending on in superficial to the parotid, where it is thickened. So which is forming the parotidomasseteric fascia. Here you see, if in case of enlargement of parotid gland, it is very painful. It leads to severe pain. Why? Because of the unyielding nature of this fascia. Parotidomasseteric fascia is very, very thick fascia. And one more thickening is stylomandibular. As I told, the deep lamina of the parotid fascia is thickened from the styloid process to the angle of mandible, where it is forming the stylomandibular ligament. Then forms the 2 fascial slings, one for the digastric muscle and one for the omohyoid muscle. And it gives rise to 2 facial processes. These things now we'll learn what are those 2 facial slings. So now coming to the, what are those 2 facial slings? If you observe the sternocleidomastoid, so on its course it is enclosing the sternocleidomastoid. So just beneath the, means under cover of the sternocleidomastoid, the investing layer gives off 2 facial slings. One is pretracheal fascia, the other one is a prevertebral. In this picture it is not clear. I will show in the next picture. So first you see here the pretracheal. As the name given pretracheal, it should go in front of the trachea. So what is the actual extension of this pretracheal layer? First you see, the pretracheal layer is present in the anterior part of the neck. It is not beyond the neck, means not going to the vertebral column. So it is extending. What is the extent of the pretracheal layer? You have to know. So above it is attached to the hyoid bone. So here in this picture you can see what is the vertical extent of the pretracheal fascia. See in this picture, here this is a bone, hyoid bone. So above the pretracheal layer is attached to the hyoid bone. If you trace the pretracheal layer below, as it is covering just in front of the trachea, it extends down as far as to the mediastinum. So where it ends at the superior apex of the fibrous pericardium. See, the fibrous pericardium is the content of the middle mediastinum. So the pretracheal layer extends down to the thorax to the mediastinum. So it is merges with the or blends with the inferiorly. What happened? It blends with the apex of the fibrous pericardium. On either side, it blends with the suprapleural membrane. What is that suprapleural membrane? Simpson's fascia. So Simpson's fascia has, as you know, this is made up of muscle and fascia. So what is that facial component is derived from this pretracheal layer. And what is the muscle is the scalenus minimus. You know that. So the facial component of the Simpson's fascia is derived from this extension of the pretracheal layer, extend down to the mediastinum. Now you see here, now if you trace this pretracheal layer just beneath the or under cover of the sternocleidomastoid, first it divides into two layers. The red color indicates how the pretracheal layer is dividing. Here you can appreciate one layer is passing and enclosing the muscles. Here all these muscles are collectively known as strap muscles below the hyoid, so which are infrahyoid muscles. So one layer is here, pretracheal again is enclosing the muscles. So this layer we can tell muscular layer or muscular part encloses the infrahyoid group of the muscles. Then the second layer we can call visceral layer. So as it is known as visceral layer, it is going to enclose the viscera. So what are those viscera which are very, very important here? See, it is this visceral layer is enclosing a space called visceral space. In this space, the three important structures are we can identify in the neck. One is a thyroid gland. Just behind that, this is the trachea, and still behind that, this is esophagus. Because we have taken this section just below the cricoid cartilage. So below the cricoid cartilage means where larynx is continuous as trachea and pharynx is continuous as esophagus. So the splitting of the pretracheal layer encloses this visceral space. So what is this visceral space? Containing three important structures. Thyroid gland, then trachea, then esophagus. So again, I want to repeat. So this pretracheal layer is divided into muscular part and visceral part. So by the enclosure, this muscular part and visceral part, it is enclosing a space called visceral space, and the muscular part is enclosing the muscles, which are infrahyoid muscles, which include sternocleidomastoid and sternothyroid, thyrohyoid. These are the muscles enclosed here. Now, see on its pores, a gland is there here. So here it envelopes this gland as a outer fibrous layer, because the thyroid gland has two covering fascias, a true capsule and a false capsule. So that false capsule here, it is derived from this pretracheal layer. As it on these pores, it is enclosing that gland. Now in this picture you can see these are the two lobes of the thyroid gland. So the lateral surface and the medial surface. Here it is covered by this fascia. So here the superficial fascia is somewhat thick, but the medial fascia is somewhat thin. It is not well defined. It is ill-defined layer. And that's why what happens in case of swelling of the thyroid gland, it can easily grow backwards and it may compress the esophagus and it leads to dysphagia, means difficulty in swallowing. So it is a main important function here. You see, if the ill-defined medial fascia or a deep fascia, what happened? Enlargement of thyroid may enlarge because backwards, and it may compresses the esophagus. Next, here you can see one important structure, ligament of Berry. It is nothing but a thickening of this pretracheal fascia. So the thyroid gland is covered by pretracheal fascia. So the deep lamina, gets attached to the cricoid cartilage. Exactly, cricoid cartilage means sixth cervical vertebra. So the thyroid gland, by this facial extension. So what is this facial extension? The deep lamina of this false capsule of the thyroid gets attached to the cricoid cartilage by means of a thickening fibrous band, which is known as ligament of Berry. What is that? Ligament of Berry. So this explains why the thyroid gland is moving along the movements of the means during deglutition or due to the movements of the hyoid bone, how the thyroid gland is moving up and down. So this explains because the thickening of this pretracheal fascia, which is known as ligament of Berry. So during thyroid surgeries, the ligament of Berry has to be cut to mobilize this thyroid gland. Then, so continue to pretracheal fascia with the mediastinum. So this is very important. So in front of that, there is a chance of spread of infection towards the mediastinum. This explains. So pretracheal fascia extends from the hyoid point down to the mediastinum. Coming to the other facial sling of the deep cervical fascia, that is nothing but prevertebral layer. So what is the extent of this prevertebral? As the name indicating prevertebral fascia, it surrounds the vertebral column in front. So pre means in front of vertebra. So it extends vertically. What is the extent of prevertebral fascia? You can see this is the base of the skull where it is attached to the sphenoid bone. Then down it extends to the posterior mediastinum, because the lower part it extends down to the third thoracic vertebra where it blends with the anterior longitudinal ligament. So here what happens, the prevertebral fascia is divided into two layers. You can identify here, one is alar layer and the other layer. So this is the actual prevertebral layer and this is the alar layer. So by which, and one more thing I forgot to tell, here you see this is the pretracheal layer, visceral layer. So here visceral layer is blends with the posterior wall of the pharynx, which is known as buccopharyngeal fascia. So just behind this buccopharyngeal fascia, there is a space which is called retropharyngeal space. Retropharyngeal space. So where you can see this retropharyngeal space between this buccopharyngeal fascia and alar fascia. And here the prevertebral layer is splitting into alar and prevertebral layer. So in between, so the splitting, between the splitting of this layer, there is a space which is actually known as danger area. Why? Because it is filled with loose areolar tissue. Then behind that, there is a prevertebral space. Means in front of this vertebral column and this prevertebral layer of the fascia. So how many spaces? Retropharyngeal space, danger space, and this is the prevertebral space. So because of the extent of this prevertebral fascia down to the mediastinum, there is a chance of spreading of infection down to the mediastinum. Even here, this is a retropharyngeal space. So infection may spread down to the mediastinum. Then prevertebral layer. So here the prevertebral layer, here you can see this is a prevertebral layer. It extends in front of this. So in front of vertebra means it covers the muscles in front of vertebra, means prevertebral muscles. Then it extends backwards as it covers the paravertebral muscles. So prevertebral fascia covering the prevertebral and paravertebral muscles, and further back it extends beneath the trapezius muscle. So on its course, this prevertebral fascia forms a axillary sheath around the brachial plexus and subclavian artery as it crosses the root of the neck and into the axilla. So where it forms the axillary sheath, and here the subclavian vein is outside the axillary sheath. So what are the structures present in the axillary sheath? Brachial plexus and subclavian artery. So here there may be a chance of tuberculosis of vertebrae, in that the spread of pus to the axilla or pus may also points as an abscess in the region of the posterior triangle. Then these are the clinical relevance. What are the facial spaces? As I told, how the deep cervical fascia is enclosing the neck in the form of compartment. So among the compartments we have spaces. So visceral space, I told, it encloses the gland on the trachea and esophagus, and the retropharyngeal space behind the pharynx. Then danger space between the splitting of the prevertebral fascia. Then prevertebral space just in front of the vertebral column and prevertebral layer. So this is a picture showing what are these spaces and what are these layers. Then see, this is a retropharyngeal abscess. It may be retropharyngeal abscess. It may go down to the mediastinum. And see, retropharyngeal abscess may compress this esophagus pharynx. So what happened? It causes dysphagia. And this is a dangerous space. So it extends from the skull and down to the mediastinum. Then this is a lateral pharyngeal space, one more space. So what is this lateral pharyngeal space? See, the lateral pharyngeal space is limited. Means medially there is a pharynx, and exactly here a tonsil is there. So, and what are the relations? Just I want to show what is the extent and shape of the lateral pharyngeal space or parapharyngeal space. See, the parapharyngeal space is a wedge shaped. So it extends from the base of the skull and down to the hyoid bone. The important relations, medially it is related to the tonsil and the pharyngeal muscle, that is a superior constrictor muscle. And laterally, anterolaterally by the medial pterygoid muscle, posterolaterally by the parotid gland. And most posteriorly, there is a carotid sheath. I will explain carotid sheath is important. So what is a carotid sheath posteriorly? So this carotid sheath separating this lateral pharyngeal space from that of posterior means retropharyngeal space. See carotid sheath. What is carotid sheath? As I told, the investing layer has two facial process under the sternocleidomastoid. Here it encloses a neurovascular bundle. It is very important neurovascular bundle in the neck. What is that? The internal jugular vein, internal carotid artery, and the vagus nerve. These three structures are collectively enclosed by a tubular sheath which extends from the base of the skull down to the thorax. So here it is enclosed in these three structures. Medially there is internal carotid artery. This is internal, actually common carotid artery in the lower part, internal jugular vein laterally. In between, vagus nerve more posteriorly. These are the three structures are enclosed by this fascia. So here, if you see the cut section of the carotid sheath, the anterior layer is derived from the pretracheal layer. Here in the see this diagram, pretracheal layer, whereas posterior layer is derived from the prevertebral layer. And three structures: artery, vein, and nerve. So here the common carotid artery, internal carotid artery contents of the carotid sheath, but not external carotid artery, because here the common carotid divides into external and internal. So external carotid artery pierces the carotid sheath and come out to supply the head and neck. So the contents we can tell common carotid and internal carotid, not external carotid artery. So carotid fascia is organized as a column, so runs between the base of the skull to the thoracic mediastinum. So this is a clinical importance as pathway for the spread of the infection. So these are the things, deep cervical fascia. So what is a functional deep cervical fascia? How it is compartmentalized the entire neck. This is important. So read again all the structures. Thank you.